Hi there, and welcome to Estimating the Mean, which is basically finding the mean from a table but using grouped data. But first of all, before we do that, let's check that you know how to find the mean and the median from just an ordinary table, just a frequency table. So I want you to pause the video, find the mean and the median. If you're not sure about those, maybe go back and watch the video on that. And then unpause when you're done, please. Okay, you should have had a go at this. Let's see what we're supposed to be doing. Well, finding the mean, we need to add a new column and then multiply the x column, so this is like the category, by the frequency. So there's our extra column, and we're going to multiply across. Let's just go back on that, because I haven't actually set my pen to work yet. There we go. So we've got 15 times by 4 is 60. 16 times by 15, I believe, is 240. 17 times 2 is definitely 34. 18 times 0, tricky one this, 0. 19 times by 4 is 76. Then I am going to need the total frequency. So I'm going to add up my frequency column to find out how many there are, which is 25 is the total of that column. And then let's find the total of the other column I did, which is, oh, that's a rather satisfying number. I've just found it. It's 410. That's weirdly a round number, isn't it? In a way. So then we do 410 divided by the total frequency. So basically we've added them all up, divided by how many there are. And we get the answer of 16.4. And then it's a good idea to then have a little look at the table, and 16.4 is sort of in here somewhere. That's where the bulk of the data is, so that seems like a reasonable answer for the mean. Next, the median. Find the position of it first. So find the total frequency, which is 25. Or have I got a little thing down? Oh, I have, haven't I? Oh, yeah, 25. Let's just scribble that out. Plus 1. So add 1 to the total frequency and then halve it. That tells me I'm after the 13th bit of data. Now, the first 4 bits of data are here. Then we have another 15 bits of data, so altogether we've got 19. That means the 13th one, which is what I'm after, if I put them in all in order, would be in this row here. So 16 is the median. Yep. Okay, so happy days on that if you know what you're doing. If you're not, maybe go back and just watch the previous video, which was something about finding the mean from a frequency table. I think that's what I called it. But anyway, okay, so what's different now? Well, looking at this, our data has now been grouped. So anything between 20, so bigger than 20 but less than or equal to 30, so between those two numbers, has been grouped together, and there are 4 of those. Now the problem is I don't actually know how big any of those are. All 4 of them might just be a little bit bigger than 20, or they might be as big as 30, or they could just be spread out, you know, almost randomly between the two, which is going to cause me a bit of a problem. Previously, we always had like an actual number. We had a fixed number. It might have been, you know, a decimal, but it was a fixed number. So there were 4 that were exactly 15, 15 that were exactly 16, 2 that were exactly 17, and so on. Now I don't know what they are. And obviously before, I used to just multiply across, you know, 4 lots of 15, 15 lots of 16. Now I can't do that anymore. I've got to do something else. Let's have a look. What am I going to do? I am going to, if you see estimate the mean, we are going to add 2 new columns, right? Now the first one is the midpoint. So the midpoint, and we're talking about the midpoint of this. Now all of these over here are what we call, they're all different classes. Each one is a class. The first class is between 20 and 30, second class between 30 and 40, okay? So we're finding the midpoint of the class. Now in this case we can see halfway between 20 and 30 is 25, and you need to be really consistent on these. Between 30 and 40 is 35, 40 and 50 is 45, 50 and 60 is 55. Now what I'm doing, because I don't know the exact figure or the exact value of these 4 things, what I'm going to say is I'm going to take a, you know, sort of middle value. I'm going to say every single one of them is 25, and that's going to kind of work out, you know, hopefully on average sort of all right. And these 9 here are all going to be 35. So if I was writing these data out in one row, it would be, there'd be 4 25s, you know, that was my first midpoint. Then there would be 9 35s, and then 16 45s, and so on. And you can see it goes off my page here. There's way too much. And so this is all my data. So like I said, I'm pretending that each of these 4 has the exact value of the midpoint. And it's because I don't know their exact value. Okay, hopefully I've got that message home. That's why we're doing a midpoint. Now after that, I can actually do what I did before. I can do, instead of timesing the x value by 4, I times the midpoint by 4. Now 4 lots of 25 is 100, because this is the value that I'm presuming they are. Then I need 9 lots of 35, which is 315. I'm sort of talking slowly because I'm working out as I go on my calculator. And 16 lots of 45 is 720. There's some big numbers here. Then 8 lots of 55 is 440. And then 3 lots of 65 is 195. Okay, well, what do I do with those two values? Well, I then find the total of the midpoint times frequency, and I find the total of the frequency. I don't want the total of the midpoints. This is irrelevant. I never found the total of the first column, did I? It was always the total frequency, which I'm just trying to look on there. What would that be? 4 plus 9 plus 16 plus 8 plus 3 is 40. There are 40 things in here, so I need that. I also need, as we did before, the midpoint times the frequency. This column where I've multiplied across, I need to add all of those up. Plus 720 plus 440 plus 195 is 1,770. I really hope I haven't made a mistake with that, otherwise I'll look very foolish. Oh, come back all my writing. So the mean is, you do the total of the midpoint times frequency. Well, that's 1,770, and divide it by how many things there are. Now that's the total frequency. And let's see what we get. 1,770 divided by 40 is 44.25. Now again, have a little look at the data. It's somewhere in this class here. Well, that looks pretty reasonable, doesn't it? It's in that class there where the bulk of data is. So that looks like it's going to be, you know, a reasonable answer for my mean. Okay, right, let's recap that a little bit. I've written it down the bottom here. If you see estimate the mean, you're going to add 2 new columns. 1, 2. You're going to find the midpoint of the data. Now, even if it's a decimal, that's fine. What's halfway between 0 and 5? 2.5. Halfway between 5 and 10? 7.5. Halfway between 10 and 15? 12.5, halfway between 15 and 20, that's 17.5, and halfway between 20 and 25, 22.5. Now, at that point, I want you to pause the video and see if you can carry on and find out what the estimate of the mean is, and then unpause when you're done. Bonjour, welcome back. We're going to multiply across. Remember, we're doing the x times frequency. We're doing midpoint times frequency. I hope you didn't slip up there. Sorry, that's my typo on the... I'll have to, you know, tell the person who makes the PowerPoints off, which is me. So midpoint times frequency. Well, frequency of 0 times by 2.5 is 0. 10 lots of 7.5 is 75. 20 lots of 12.5 is going to be presumably 500. Oops, I've just typed that in wrong. It's definitely not that. Oh, it's 250. Of course it is. That's why it's always good to check. 12 times 17.5 is 210. And 8 lots of 22.5 is 180. Now remember, my mean is the total of the midpoint times frequency. So let's add those up there. And we get 715. And I divide that by how many things there are, which is, of course, is the total frequency, which is 50. So I divide my 715 by 50. Oops, no, not 51 by 50. It is 14.3. Have a little look. Is it a reasonable answer? 14.3 is here. That's right in the center of our data somewhere. So that sounds like a great answer there. Perfect. Cool. Getting the idea? Do another one then. I want you to pause the video and then unpause when you're done, please. Off you go. We've unpaused. Now I need my two new columns. Of course, that shouldn't be X. That should be midpoint. So what's the midpoint? It'll be 5, 15, 25, 35, and 45. Okay, then midpoint times frequency. 5 5s are 25. 4 15s are 60. 10 times 25 is 250. 2 lots of 35 is 70. And 4 lots of 45 is 180. I need to know the totals of those two important columns then. So the total of the frequency is, I think, 25, but let's just double check. Plus 2 plus 4 is 25. And the total of my midpoint times frequency, I'm not even going to try and add that up in my head because it'll take too long. 585. Okay, remember the mean is you add them all up and divide by how many there are. And in this case, that means adding up all of my midpoint times frequency and divide it by how many there are. And that's my total frequency, which is 23.4. Is it a reasonable answer? Let's have a look at our data. 23.4 is, again, it's where the bulk of the data is. That seems good. Now, why is it called estimating the mean? Well, there's this important step, the midpoint. Because we don't know exactly what each one is, we're presuming that it's, going to even out, that they've all got kind of value of the midpoint. That's why it's an estimate. It's not going to be exactly right. To do that, I'd have to actually know what their exact value was and add that all up. But I don't, which is why it's estimate the mean. Just remember, if you see estimate the mean, you're going to add 2 new columns. Right, 2 for you to do this time. Now, this time, I want you to find the mode. Now the mode, when you're finding the mode, let's go back actually on that last page. What would the mode be of this data? It would be the one with the highest frequency. That's this row here. And in which case you just write down the class as it's written in the question. So that is the mode. That's the class that's got the highest frequency, and you just write it down. So that's nice and easy. The range, you take away the biggest from the smallest. So again, my range on this one would be you take the upper value of the biggest class, that's 50, and take away the smallest value of the lowest class, because those are the 2 extreme values I could have. So the range in this case would actually be 50. Then the median, just like you've done before, you find out which class it's in. So find the position, total the frequency, add 1, divide by 2. That gives you the position, and then find out which class it's in. And then, just like the mode, you write down the class as it's written there. But the main thing we're talking about today is estimating the mean. That one. So that's really what I want to focus on, but I want you to try the others as well. Anyway, enough of me talking. Pause the video, work out those things, unpause when you're done, please. Well, I'm done. I don't know about you. Let's go. Okay, so firstly, what's the mode? Well, the mode is the most common, and in this case, that's the highest frequency there, so it's 20 to 30. The mean. Now, if you do your 2 columns, so you do your midpoint times frequency, you should get a total of 405. And the total frequency there is 15, so you divide it by 15 to get 27. The median position, well, there's a total frequency of 15, so add 1, divide by 2. That means we're after the 8th one. The 8th one is in, let's have a little look, there's a cumulative frequency of 10, so it's in this one here. So the median is between 20 and 30. It's that class there. And the range is the biggest frequency possible, not biggest frequency, the biggest possible number on the class, take away the smallest one, and that's the range. Now, if you struggle with that, I want you to pause again, and then unpause when you're done, and have a go at the second one. Okay, so here's the answers for this one. The mode this time is 3.5 and 4. It's between 3.5 and 4 because that's the biggest frequency. The mean, if you do your 2 extra columns, add up your midpoint times frequency, you get 57.75. Divide it by the total frequency, which is 15, and you get 3.85. The median position again, because actually look, they're the same frequencies on both questions, but it's the 8th position. Where is the 8th position? Well, just like the top question, it's in this one here. So this time, this is the class we're after, the 3.5 up to 4. So x is bigger than 3.5, but less than or equal to 4. And lastly, the range is the 5. Take away the 2.5, which has a range of 2.5. Okay, well done. But estimating the mean seems like a bit of a faff, frankly, when you're doing it, when you're first learning it. But actually, once you get to know it, it's not too bad. You know, you just got to remember those 2 extra columns, the midpoint and then midpoint times frequency. Cool, right, well done, and I shall see you next time.